in Alan Steinfeld's book is actually he has a story from Linda Moulton Howe about when she was 7 years old, that she was playing in the tree and she was hanging upside down and all the blood rushed to her head. And then she said for a moment, she felt herself get teleported to the moon. And she felt like ever since she was 7 years old and she had this experience, she was like, oh my God, the moon is like hollow and there's something inside of the moon. There's like beings inside of the moon. And it's actually what started her journey. So that's really cool because, so if you, and there's still more in the chapter, didn't spoil the whole chapter, but it is really interesting because, one thing that is really interesting about the people that are in these spaces of alien, UFO, spirituality, consciousness, almost all of them have some type of inciting incident from childhood that made them interested in these topics. You know, as you guys already know, I had my UFO experience when I was 5 years old. So that is what started me to be excited and confused and looking for answers with all of this. Oh, Natasha, you've been binge listening to Journey of Souls and halfway through Destiny of Souls. Oh my God, I love it. Obviously, one of my favorite books ever. Journey of Souls is the most life-changing book to me. And I love the reader. I love his voice. Oh, you're reading the Akashic Records by Linda Howe. So not Linda Moulton Howe, but the Linda Howe method to access the Akashic Records. I also have a video about that on my YouTube. So also you guys on TikTok, if you're interested in accessing the Akashic Records, I did a whole video. It's like 2.5 hours. It breaks down all of Linda Howe's work and teaches the method of how to access the Akashic Records. You're saying I can see why it changed your life. Oh, it was so life-changing. Oh, thanks for the gifts, guys. Thanks, Stella. Okay. Let's see. You get experiences through dreams, especially UFO. So that's one of the things that's really interesting is there's kind of two big types of UFO experiences that people have. Some are in the physical, and then some are in the dream state. Oh, hey, Jess, you're watching from Miraval. Oh my God. I was literally just thinking right before. I was like, oh, I bet she's at Miraval today. Exciting. I can't wait to hear how it goes and all the fun stuff that come up, and possibly go to Miraval myself one day. You said you have 2 implants, alien implants. Recently, they have been irritating you. It's all very strange. So do you think that you have them physical, or do you think they're like the etheric implants? Because I kind of hear a lot about both. I'm a believer in both. Also, as you guys may or may not know, this new Discovery Plus show that's on tomorrow night is the 2nd episode, and they're going to be talking about this woman who has a alien implant. As you guys may or may not know, I'm actually on the show. Not this episode. I don't know what episode I'm on. I don't know if they're going to cut me out. I don't know. It was a very interesting experience. I was kind of told it was a different type of show. And then when I went, I was a little bit bamboozled. So I don't know what the final cut will be, which is why I haven't made a video promoting it, you know, just being real with y'all, because, you know, I don't want to be promoting something that they, the show is called Alien Encounters, Fact or Fiction. Now, if they would have told me the show was called Fact or Fiction, I obviously would not have done it. So that was interesting. But the woman that is on the episode tomorrow night, her name is Rachel, and she had an alien implant that she cut out from behind her ear. So I'm really interested about her story. She had some really interesting things connected to the Hudson Valley, which is one of the most well-known alien UFO sightings in history, because hundreds of people saw this sighting, and her experience happened at the time that was. So I'm really excited to see her segment, although I have not watched the show yet. I did get some feedback from people to see what the vibe of the show is, because I didn't want to upset myself. Okay. let's see. You said, Natasha said, we saw 3 UFOs on Friday night while looking at the full moon through the telescope. The third time uh, was being flanked by the 3 fighter jets in line. Couldn't get a video because the bright streetlights. Whoa, cool. Oh, thanks, Shauna. All right, let's see. Let me see some questions from here. I see a couple things going. People are asking, what is the show called? Alien Encounters, Fact or Fiction. It's on Discovery Plus. I think it's going to be on HBO Max after it does the initial premiere. Then they're going to stream it on HBO Max over the summer. So that should be coming up in a few weeks, I think. Have I read The Holographic Universe by Michael Talbot? Yes, it's incredible. I love Michael Talbot. He has some really interesting things about synchronicities. So in my Earth Shift series, I did a couple of parts based on his books. And he has a lot of interesting things about synchronicities because he talks about how synchronicities, is it the universe communicating with us or is it co-creating the universe? And I love his perspective on that. Let's see. One is deep in your bone marrow in your heel, and the other is in your ear. You let people feel the one in your ear. Wow. Yeah, on this show, she doesn't cut it out on the show. She had cut it out previously and she had it. So, speaking of synchronicities, right? Hello, all. Yeah, Hudson Valley was not a single incident. Yeah, hers is not either, actually. But I don't think I'm allowed to say too much about her experience. But hers was a series of incidents at Hudson Valley. And it was during those years that happened. Do you think aliens are going to come before or after societal collapse, and will they save us? I don't think aliens are going to save us. I think that I'm a believer that they help us, but humanity has free will for a reason, and we're going to have to save ourselves. And also I know it might be triggering to some people as well, but I also don't think anyone's going to save us except for ourselves. So, oh, hi, Roxy. Thank you. So I don't think anybody's going to save us, including Jesus Christ, So that's the other thing is not to diminish anyone's beliefs or dreams or anything. But I do think that when it comes to the second coming of Christ that people talk about, then I personally believe it's when humanity really learns the lessons that Jesus was actually teaching. A lot of people do claim to follow Jesus and walk with Jesus and follow his plan. However, they hate their neighbor. They hate people who are different than them. They hate people that disagree with them. They say everybody's going to go to hell. So that was not really what Jesus talked about. So I personally think the whole second coming of Christ is when people kind of reach Christ consciousness, but really Christ consciousness is not something as complicated as people make it seem. It's really understanding that we're all one on a deep level inside of your heart. So it's kind of like a concept that starts in your mind and then makes its way down to the heart eventually. Will societal collapse happen before disclosure? Well, disclosure could cause societal collapse as well. I personally think we're getting a slow drip disclosure. I think that they're going to go so slow that we're going to eventually, by the time that there is proof, we're going to be like, didn't you guys already tell us this? Biden will save you. From what? You see angel numbers a lot. Should you ignore them because you see them often? So it depends what it means to you. Angel numbers are, like we were talking about synchronicities. It's a very personal experience. I don't believe that there's like one meaning for different angel numbers. I think it's kind of this co-creation with the universe. So basically, if I am seeking out some type of answer, or if I'm like, gosh, I'm messed up today. I'm having a bad day. I mean, I feel like nothing's going right. And then I look and it says 11:11. If to you that means something, then, or at least that's like a little confirmation that you're like, no, actually things are okay. Everything's happening the exact way that it needs to happen. So it really is a very personal thing. Now for me, I do love angel numbers. I think that they're nice. However, and I do like 444 because the necklace was gifted to me. And then, oh, I should have worn it, but it's a little bit warm. The GFL has their angel numbers line. So I have the new sweatsuit that says 444 on it. So it's funny, I keep getting gifted a lot of 444. So I think that that's like a really beautiful synchronicity. However, for me, I like a little bit of more intense synchronicities. So I'm like, universe, I'm going to need more than an angel number. Okay. I'm going to need something a little bigger than that. And you can also play with it. Oh, you were born at 444. Cool. Project Stargate. Yeah. Project Stargate. So I actually did an event with Russell Targ, who um, was one of the original people on Project Stargate. And then I actually got to meet him. Well, we did the event online together, and then I got to meet him in person at Contact in the Desert a couple weeks ago. Okay. What do you think about Bashar saying the jab is good? I just don't know Bashar that well. A lot of people say that a lot of his information resonates with different things that I talk about or Dolores Cannon talks about or different things. So I think a lot of it does. I think as far as that goes, I think it's a personal choice, just like everything else. So for me, it's a no. But if for other people, if that's what they felt comfortable doing at the time, and yeah, then I do believe in the personal choice when it comes to everything. That's the stuff is, although it was not for me, uh, I do believe everybody has the right to do whatever they want with their body. And that, is what I'll stand on. Okay. So you were just listening to Sarah Brexman Cosme being interviewed. Fascinating. Oh, cool. Who was interviewing her? She's great. Shauna asks if I believe that we are in a simulation. So when it comes to the simulation thing, now, oh yeah, both on Adriana saying there is no good or bad, that's polarity, and Bashar shouldn't be saying that something is good or bad. Yeah, I mean, that's the thing is everything is relative, Like I said, for me, it's a no. It was not something that I wanted to do or partake in. And I do think that it imposed on people's free will. That was the thing for me is that, you have something that is mandated, which is not even a real law. And then you have this mandate, which is not a real law, which then you're forcing managers, HR people, middle management people to enforce upon someone else's free will. And that's what for me was a big actually wrong in the situation because everybody has free will. But then if you have a manager at work that is imposing on your free will, and not just in a normal way, like I don't feel like coming into work today, that's my free will. Like actually what you're allowed to do with your body is a high level of imposing on someone's free will. So that's what I really disagreed with the most of the whole situation. Yeah, exactly. It should be between you and your healthcare provider. Exactly. Not like your manager at work or something like that. Okay, so back to the simulation question. So with the simulation, now sometimes the word simulation ends up being like really kind of blown out of proportion. Like a simulation, as far as we use this word, is like, say, for example, if an astronaut is about to go to space, they will do a flight simulator. So there will be a thing that is created. It is a real thing, but it's mimicking a Jesus Christ, my freaking upstairs neighbor. So a simulator is a real thing, but it's mimicking something else. So it's mimicking the experience that you would have in space. So it is something that's real. So sometimes when we think like a simulation means that like it doesn't mean that life is meaningless. It doesn't mean that there's no purpose. But a simulation is almost like playing a game that mimics another experience. So you go into a flight simulator so that you can experience what it would be like to go into space. So that's what I think when it comes to the simulation thing, is that it's similar to a game. And it's, I like the idea of kind of this more being a game as opposed to just a simulation. But a simulation also can work the same way, because if you're playing a video game, you are simulating an experience. Now, that experience could be simulating a real life scenario or a completely made up scenario of a different game. You said it's going to be understood a lot better when quantum computers come to fruition. Have I ever read The Law of One, and what do you think of it? So I haven't read the entire Law of One. I've read sections of it. I haven't read it all the different ones front to back. I've read most of the first one. Um, I do resonate with a lot of the information in Law of One, but the tone to me is boring. I'm so sorry. It's so boring to me. I like the channeled messages that are uplifting. So, like the uplifting ones, like the Pleiadian messages, or even the stuff under hypnosis, like Dolores Cannon's work, that stuff like warms my heart. When I listen to Law of One, it sounds like a computer. So it's not that there's anything wrong with it. It just is a little bit not exciting compared to the other ones that I like. However, the information in it is really interesting. And I feel like the information lines up with pretty much everything else, lines up with different work, Dolores Cannon's work, different channeled works, conversations with God. Let's see. Does the alien exchange of your soul have a grief, or were you fine? So, to fill in a little bit what this question's about is, obviously you guys know that I had this alien UFO experience when I was 5 years old. And I thought that I just ran from this UFO for 25 years. And then I went under hypnosis and I found out that I had been taken on the ship. Then I went under hypnosis again, as you guys know, with Sarah Brexman Cosme live on Instagram. And you could see the live recording on my YouTube. And she puts me under. And it's so funny because before we went under, we both are friends with Linda Moulton Howe. And we asked Linda, is there any questions that you want to ask when I go under hypnosis? And we asked a lot more like generic questions. Well, not generic, but general questions. We asked like, can we trust gray aliens? What is happening with AI? What about Project Bluebeam? What about disclosure? Can we trust the whistleblowers? So we asked all of these questions with me under hypnosis, and it was really interesting. I agreed with most of the answers. And then when we asked about like, what was before the Big Bang, all of that stuff, really, really interesting questions. So if you haven't watched it, it's super fun. It's only an hour. But we asked Linda if she wanted to ask any questions, and we thought she was going to ask like generic questions or like kind of about, she's very interested in like the tall whites, the alien species. So I thought she was going to ask about specific alien species or something. And she was like, what I want to know is when, and she means about me, she's like, when Jennifer had her UFO experience, who were they and what did they want and what did they do? And I'm like, that is like the most like perfect Linda thing, because that's what she cares about. She's like, I need to know what these aliens were up to. So, filling into this question that Stella asked, which is so I went under hypnosis in 2021. I was told that I was not allowed to know what happened yet, but I did go on the ship and that I was not ready to know. In 2023, I went under hypnosis again with Sarah Brexman Cosme. And then when she asked that question per Linda, the answer was that it was Grays who abducted me, but then also that the purpose, she said, what is the purpose? Why did they do this? And they said that they exchanged my soul, that they took the original soul that I was born with out of the body and they put a different soul inside of the body. And that's the soul that I have now, the soul that I've been living with since 5 years old. Now, I know this is super out there. This might be more out there than most people like to dabble in. The reason this was right before I went to Rhythmia to Costa Rica and did ayahuasca. So when someone said, "Do I feel sad about that?" No, I don't have any negative feelings about it. Um, so when I went to Rhythmia and I was on the ayahuasca, it came up again. And so I was having a really rough time on my first day of the ayahuasca, and my body was getting ripped up. I was in the bathroom. I thought I was gonna die on that toilet because I was purging out the other end so bad, so hard, and I had been on a diet for it, the special diet. I was not super strict, but, still, I don't eat pork and take medications and do these other things, so I didn't think I needed to be super strict. Um, they give you a colonic before, so I was already cleared out. So I was like, "What the hell is coming out of me?" And they said that it was, different trauma from the body, which is like the body keeps the score, and then the other stuff was from when I was a teenager and had done drugs. And so and it had been like 20 years. Like, it literally had been 20 years, and this stuff was already not in my body. But what it was saying is, like, the body keeps the score. So my body was still holding on to these experiences that I had over 20 years ago. And so I was like, "Damn, like, what the hell with my body?" And then the second night, I had an experience where it explained to me that the trauma from up until the age of 5 was still inside the body. And this is the reason why there was a disconnect between my mind and my body. And basically, my mind was very like, you know, um, smart and like strong-willed and all of this stuff. But they said that regardless, so this mind was like the new soul. This other soul was in the body, but the experiences from that age and before still lived inside of me. And they said that's where my self-destructive behavior was coming from. The self-destructive behavior was not coming from this other soul that came into the body. The self-destructive behavior was coming from when I say self-destructive behavior, I mean, part of it being doing drugs as a teenager and being reckless and self-destructive in that way. But there was also lots of other self-destructive behavior in other ways. So my body was having to purge all of these experiences, and that basically with this other soul, it could only do so much because the body had already been programmed to be self-destructive, to have self-worth issues. And so um with Stella's question is, like how basically, and also a lot of the questions that came here is like, how did that make me feel? So for me, um, I mean, I am really glad that it happened, and of course there is some like, I'm still open to learning more. I just learned this last year. I had this UFO experience in 1993, and for 25 years I thought I saw a UFO with my whole family. We had this crazy experience. We had a little bit of a missing time and then ran. But then under hypnosis, as more was uncovered, and then I went under hypnosis again with Yvonne Smith, and Yvonne Smith is the one who created the hypnosis method specifically for abduction experiences. With that, I got the complete visualization, all the visuals of what happened, and it was so interesting because, um, I saw myself as a 5-year-old, and there was this being that was next to me, and Yvonne is like, "How tall is the being compared to you?" And I'm like, "Well, I'm not in the 5-year-old body. I'm the same size as this being. The 5-year-old is standing next to both of us, and it's a little kid, and it's an empty vessel." So, as far as the feelings and stuff toward it, I am grateful because I had this kind of communion with the original soul that day on the ayahuasca, and I didn't see the soul. I just got the message. I didn't see it. It basically told me that thank you for stepping in and taking this life that soul signed up for. And I basically said, thank you for being there in those first 5 years so that I could come in, and then we had this kind of like communion with each other. And parted our ways. So, let me see, there's plenty of things here. Do you remember answering the questions, or are you blacked out and have to watch a recording? So I did remember the questions. That's something that I interviewed Sarah Brexman about after, because I also am a QHHT practitioner. So I've put people under hypnosis, and I've been under hypnosis 3 different times. And reading Dolores Cannon's books, a lot of these people have no recollection. However, I had recollection of most of my stuff. Now, I asked her about that. Like, why did the people in Dolores's books not remember anything and need to listen to the recording? But then why is it different now? And it's so interesting because Sarah Brexman started doing this in like 2009, I believe. So she said up until 2009, sorry, I had to burp. Up until from 2009 to 2012, people did not remember anything. After 2012, people remembered more of their sessions. So it could be like a frequency change that happened on the planet, a shift that happened. But also not everybody remembers, because I have a friend that's not super spiritual. Like, he'll do like the meditation apps to like calm himself, but he's not really into any of the information or any of this stuff or these concepts. And I had put him under hypnosis. He had an incredible experience, but he did not remember anything. So I think it still is person to person. However, most people remember. Recently, when I put my friend under hypnosis, she remembered some, but didn't remember that much. So I think it really depends. However, the thing that's really interesting about it is if you go back and watch the recording, it's like you talk differently. It's like, it was so funny. Some people like, responded. And so now it is using your mind as the reference. So that's the thing, is it is using your mind. So it's not going it will pull some information that you don't know, but it will also be using what's available for it. So that's the thing with hypnosis. If you have a lot of information about different stuff, it'll be able to pull from those things. If the person doesn't, then they're going to have to use references that that person knows. Let's see. Okay. Someone is asking, do you think people with ADHD or neurodivergence can go under hypnosis without distractions? I do. However, it's up to the person, really. Sometimes people will, resist it. However, plenty of people, multiple people that I've put under have ADHD and autism or neurodivergence, because it's so common now. It's like that's the typical at this point. So most people that I have done it to did have either autism, ADHD, or yeah, I would say so. But it does depend on the person. That's the thing, is that you do have to find a practitioner that you're comfortable with, and you do have to be ready to do it, because if you're really like doubting it a lot, then maybe just wait, because it'll happen at the right time. It'll happen at the right time for you. So don't try to push it if you're like just curious but don't feel ready. Do it when you're ready. Oh, Mitchie C's World. So I am going to, after I come back from Peru, which will be in August, I am going to open up my books to do some online hypnosis. So QHHT was originally not trying to be done on the internet. It was Dolores, Dolores was born in the 1930s. Okay. So she did not really like technology. She didn't want it to be done online. So that's why I didn't do it. But now, after lots of contemplation, I am going to do it online. Just not yet. I'm going to start that in August, I believe, and it'll be very limited. So I'll probably have a wait list. And that's just because it's all day. It takes like somewhere between 6 and 8 hours. So it is like an all day ordeal. And, but it can be done, because obviously, if you watch the recording, I did it with Sarah online. So, I will be opening that stuff up when, the time is right. Okay, someone said, I thought QHHT has to be done in person. Yeah, that's why I'm not going to be calling it QHHT. I'm going to just call it hypnosis in general. And, but that's what it's going to be. It's basically going to be the same method with a couple of words changed specifically for online. And that's why, you know, out of respect for Dolores, I'm not going to call it QHHT, but it does work online. Okay, so you said neurodivergent is a sign of being a star sign. Prove me wrong. Not everything is a sign of either, right? Everybody thinks everything is neurodivergent. I don't know if there's any neurotypicals left in that case. But no, there's a lot of things are oversimplified. They're very oversimplified. And, you know, there's many different types of people and things. And also, you guys, you know, neurodivergence is also having trauma, PTSD, and CPTSD. Like, so that is also considered neurodivergence. So a lot of times when people are neurodivergent, it also does mean unhealed, undealt with trauma, you know? So that is something that I feel like doesn't get talked about enough, because that is something that, you know, it doesn't necessarily mean that your brain was born this way. It means that circumstances caused the brain to react this way, which means that it can be changed. You know, I am a believer that most things could be cured. I know that and I'm not a medical practitioner, but the medical world believes that there's like no cure for nothing, right? Like basically anything that happens, they feel like there's no cure for mental illness. There's no cure for this. There's no cure for that. There's only treatments. And I disagree. I do think that people can cure themselves. I do know people who have cured themselves from ADHD. It does take work. It takes a lot of healing. It takes a lot of, you know, different stuff. It's not going to work for everybody. Not everybody's going to be able to do that. You said you have CPTSD and have recently started thinking you're neurodivergent. Well, it is actually a type of neurodivergence. So, but it's because it happened because of a development. And that's why I believe that also with healing and with work, it can be reversed. Did you ever feel like you won't be able to go under? No. You said you had BPD and feel like you're so close to not having it. You know, that's another thing too, is things like BPD, and I know now we're getting into the controversial era. However, a lot of people who've been diagnosed with BPD, you might have just been in a shitty relationship with a shitty man who was lying and cheating on you. I said it. Okay. Because a lot of people are getting diagnosed with like anxious or like, you know, anxiety, or told they have an anxious attachment style, or that they have BPD or bipolar. And a lot of times they were I feel like a lot of doctors, even with ADHD, they're not asking about what is going on. You know, like I've had friends that were diagnosed with ADHD because of their behaviors. However, no one was asking, well, what's your home life like? What is your relationship like? How are you being treated? Do you have an abusive partner? Are you, you know, were you abused in childhood? Have you experienced any type of SA? You know, like that's things that I feel like they don't ask enough questions about things. They don't ask a lot of questions. So like even some of the people I know who've like cured their ADHD, I wonder if they ever actually had it, or were they just in a really traumatic situation at the time? And when they went to a doctor, the doctor didn't ask about all the stuff that was going on in their life. They just talked about the behaviors. They just talked about what was on the surface, the symptoms, but not actually what was really happening. And then, so I do believe that there's a lot of women who were diagnosed with BPD, who might have just been with a shitty man that was lying, cheating, scheming on him. Or maybe they were still like maybe they were in like some type of, you said you totally agree your son had a major. Okay, you watched it yourself, but you're serious. You sounded more serious, I meant. Okay. So I think, that's a thing when some people might just have things going on at that time, you know? What did you say? Anything can be cured. I do believe in that. I do. Yep, and then demonized for BPD. It's true, and I mean, I've talked about it many times. I also think people demonizing the narcissists needs to stop, because you're basically making these people not be able to heal. Because if being a narcissist is basically the equivalent of being the devil, then people are not going to seek out help. What the hell is BPD? Borderline personality disorder. To have an opinion about Taylor Swift. I feel like it's kind of a cult and is kind of dangerous. I don't know if it's dangerous, but I mean, it's not for me. I don't like Taylor Swift. I don't understand the obsession with her. I don't understand the obsession. I don't think that as far as like, she's like all of these things. Whenever I say I don't like Taylor Swift, people wig out though. They're like, oh, she has they're like, no, she's an autistic queer witch. And I'm like, what? Like, if anything, she's closeted, like most of the people in Hollywood. So you're not a queer icon if you're closeted, first and foremost. But I just don't get it. Okay. Oh yeah, Jess, totally agree. My son had major inflammatory issues, Kawasaki disease, and they never even wanted to investigate if that's what caused his ADHD, and he always thought it did. Exactly. That's the thing, especially like inflammation. There's so many things that could be happening in your body, and like they immediately look at the behavior or the diagnosis or something like that, and it's like, but what about all the other stuff? And does it go away? Or with the things being treated or other things being helped, maybe it's not ADHD all the time. Swift is the personification of overrated. Yes. Tool is your favorite band anyway. Me too. You think there's a cult behind Taylor Swift for sure. I don't know. I feel like it's a cult of mediocrity. Like, just a cult of, and everyone could be basic. There's nothing wrong with being basic. But it annoys me if people come for JoJo Siwa, a little girl. I know she's 21, but that's still really young. And so, I'm like, damn, Taylor Swift is just as corny. What are you guys talking about? Okay. You feel like she might be using dark magic. I mean, I do believe some of the stuff that Sloan Bella says about the energy harvesting that is happening when we have these massive, 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 massive celebrities. Your ex is a narcissist and you told him to get help, you'd stay with him. He couldn't be helped. I get it. Well, see, I mean, I think you're the same person who said you have BPD, right? So that's the thing is maybe you didn't even have BPD. You might have just been with an abusive partner. That's the thing that is so crazy about some of these diagnoses sometimes. Yeah, and that natural reactions are being diagnosed as mental illness. It's so true. It's so, so true. I love the 3 Libra song. It's so good. Okay. Can it be treated with meditation? I mean, meditation is really helpful. If someone has ADHD, breath work is really good. Like breath work is great because it just like circulates all of that extra tension out of the body. But I've been flagged for harassment and bullying. That's what happens when you say that's what happens when you talk about Taylor Swift. Okay. Yeah, people think that they are just born with mental illness. Yeah, and most of it I think is developed. I know TikTok is so ridiculous. I know. You use a lot of products that cause inflammation, like certain snacks and fragrances, allegedly, and have never really had an issue. And some people I know have a crazy issue, so confused. So it does depend on everyone's immune system too. So everybody's immune system is different. Some people are allergic to, you know, milk, dairy, gluten, and then other people can just eat, cheese pizza all the time. So it really is, everyone's body is different. So if, you are doing a lot of things that cause inflammation, um, and you're fine, that's great. However, it probably is best to limit it because we do know that inflammation is like the cause of so many problems. Sugar and inflammation are like basically the causes of everything they're starting to find out. It's about attacking the fabric of society, which is the family unit. Just listen to the lyrics of artists who were astroturfed in the last 10 years. They all discourage having families, etc. Yeah, I mean, part of it is music and social stuff, like that, societal norms. But then also, to completely put it on pop culture is, uh, almost oversimplified, because a lot of the reason why people also don't want the family unit is because they're traumatized by their family. So a lot of people felt unloved by their family and felt not taken care of, or that their family didn't protect them and they didn't feel safe, or they really hated their childhood because of abuse or something. And that's also a big part of the reason why the family unit has died down, is because people are running away from it because it's part of their trauma. So it is like a very compounded issue. It's not only from pop culture, you know, because it is also, a lot of times people are also avoiding family because it's super triggering for them. How do we feel about allergies and the air we breathe attacking us? Signs of living in the wrong place. So that could be one thing. It could definitely be something. Now, in the Louise Hay book, it talks about your environment. Oh, thanks, Jess. Thanks for the super chat. You're so sweet. Let me read you about the allergies here. Okay. Thank you. All right. So for allergies, things that could be coming up is, who are you allergic to, and denying your own power. So the affirmation for allergies is, the world is safe and friendly. I am safe. I am at peace with life. So a lot of people who have allergies are super triggered by that affirmation. They're like, the world is not safe and friendly. No, no, no. So environmental allergies can also be something like that, is not feeling safe in the world, and then being actually attacked by your environment. Now, I did read in one of these books that, one of these channeled books, that they say being allergic to cats, which a lot of people are, sometimes means that they're almost like, their heart is not able to receive enough love. So being allergic to animals sometimes feels like either being undeserving of love and stuff, and it's like shuns away these type of unconditional love that we have in the world with animals. Let's see. Okay. Food allergies. Now, interesting, with the food allergies could be something similar too. They don't have specifically what type of allergies in this book, but I think it could be the same thing, is like the food allergies. Now, also one of the things that I have heard with the food allergies is there is sometimes people who have like more psychic abilities tend to be more allergic to stuff. So I don't know if there's also a frequency. Okay, the book is Louise Hay, Heal Your Body, and it has all the different things and the different reasons and affirmations. Also, if you guys are in my Substack, I did my last month's class. We do a once a month class. The replay is up. This one was about the healing vortex. And so basically we go through this book and we go through all these different reasons that Louise Hay said sickness was caused by. And then we used some of Dolores Cannon's work, some of Julia Cannon's work, some of Joe Dispenza's work, some of Marissa Peer's work. And we put that all together. So I compiled like all different reasons of different illness. And then at the end, we did a guided hypnosis, which is called like a healing vortex. And basically we do this meditation that the healing goes into the mind to change the thoughts, into the eyes to change the way we're seeing the world, into the mouth to change the words that we're speaking that are causing illness, and then through the body and actually start to work on realigning a lot of those things. So that was on my Substack. Oh yeah, Donna, if you're a member on the Substack, it was for the paid subscribers. If you're a member, then go and listen to the replay because that class was so good. It really was, and I feel like there was a lot of stuff that we talked about that was like so on point. Now, one thing to keep in mind: be very cautious with sharing this information with people because when people are actually going through it, they don't want to hear this, you know? So it has to also be, this is for yourself, but it also has to be, it has to be to someone who can receive it. Like you don't want to have someone who is suffering with cancer and then tell them like, oh, that means you won't forgive. It's already really late at that point and that person needs different support. So that's why you have to use your discretion and use your discretion when you share that information. So it's great for yourself. It could be talked about with other people, but you don't want to like make something worse for someone in that moment, you know? And especially if they are not going to receive the information, it's just going to come off as very insensitive. So that's something to definitely use your discretion with when you're talking about like how illness is caused by thoughts, beliefs, and things like that. Because sometimes people are just not in a place to do it or receive it. Someone was asking about what is my opinion on the Joe Dispenza meditation. It's about connecting to our higher self through our pineal gland, and he is working with scientists on how it changes our gene code and heals from illness. I love Joe Dispenza. I love Joe Dispenza. I love his work. His meditations are a little too long for me, so I never really do them. He goes way too long. What do you think about Soul Speak by Julia Cannon? I think it's great. So I actually haven't fully read it. I've seen Julia Cannon speak live where she went through it. And I do know a lot of the notes from her stuff, from her lecture. So we do talk a little bit about hers in the thing too. But it's very similar to the Louise Hay book. Okay. Someone said, how do you become a member? So it's on my Substack. It's jennifercarmody.substack.com. It's in the description of this YouTube video. And it's also in my links on the link in my bio on TikTok. And so it's $11 a month and we get a once a month live event for the paid subscribers. There is also free members too. So I still need to do a little bit more for my free members. They've been very sweet and patient but I also don't blow them up with a bunch of stuff because, you know, I like to have nice offerings. And if I don't really have a nice offering, then I'm not sending a ton of emails. So pretty much it goes to your email and it's also a website. And then the live event is on Zoom. So we have one coming up on the 30th. It's going to be June 30th on Sunday. I always do them on Sunday afternoons in my time zone. And so if you want to join live, it's going to be this Sunday for the paid subscribers. Yes, this coming Sunday. And we're going to be doing, so I always do like the first half is about like, we do some educational stuff. And then the second half is a meditation / group hypnosis. And so you get all the replays for the old ones. So we did a Dolores Cannon past life regression, which is great. So if you guys wanted to do that in the meantime of waiting for a QHHT session, that's a great practice run. So if you guys are like concerned whether you actually can be hypnotized, it's a great place to explore it, especially if you're thinking of doing it with me and you're not sure if you're going to go under. That's a good little test run as if it feels like a good match with the hypnosis style. And then, so we've done the other replays are a past life regression, a future life regression, meeting your guides. We did that healing vortex. 1 month I didn't do a hypnosis because I was in my really dark shadow period. Like I told you guys, I had that crazy shadow work era. So at that time, I didn't do a hypnosis because I was not really in a place to be holding space. Um, just got here. Where do you do the hypnosis? So I do once a month for my paid subscribers on Substack. It's $11 a month. We do a live event and then you get access to all the replays. That's on my Substack. Now, there's also, I will eventually be doing the one-on-one hypnosis, and then I'm probably going to start that in August. And that'll be inspired by QHHT, but we won't actually call it QHHT out of respect for Dolores, who didn't want it to be done digitally. You notice that I mentioned Lady Gaga a lot. Do I? Interesting. I think if I mentioned Lady Gaga, it's just because if I'm talking maybe about like pop stars and she's like one that comes to mind, like a Beyonce or like Rihanna or something. But I don't really know when I talk about Lady Gaga. That keeps me interested. Not really. I'm really not interested in her. I did see her in concert years ago. But it was just because my boyfriend had free tickets because my ex was a comedian and he was performing at a casino, and the casino was also hosting a Lady Gaga show. So they gave him free tickets. Someone said, I never heard you talk about her. Yeah, I don't know. Like maybe I've mentioned her before, but kind of just because she would be like someone that's easy to think of as a celebrity, you know? Let's see. Which one did you say was a good one to test if you could go under? So any of the recordings of the replays on the Substack, because we do the light Dolores Cannon method. So it's much lighter than the one-on-one. But any of those, also any of the ones that I've done on there, the healing vortex, any of them are good practice for hypnosis. Can you do hypnosis on SSRIs? Yeah, you can. Yeah. So the hypnosis is fine for medications and stuff like that. It's just really like a very deep meditation. So it's nothing to be concerned about. We're entering that state in between. So basically, when you're like falling asleep and then you kind of like feel like you're dreaming and then you like kick your foot, that moment when you're in between, that's like when you're in theta brain waves. You're not fully down to delta yet. You're not fully asleep. And you're not fully in alpha or beta either. You're in that in between. So every day people go under to a hypnosis, go into that theta brain waves twice a day. So it's that little bit that's in between fully being asleep or being awake. And we get into that state 2 times a day. So it's a very natural state to be in, and being on any medication or anything is totally fine. It's just different with the ayahuasca. So when you do ayahuasca, that's when you need to be mindful of medications because that's a mind altering substance. Do you think that we could do the healing that ayahuasca does, and can it be done in meditation or without plant medicine? A lot of the healing can be done. A lot of it can be done. So it would just take longer, It just takes longer, but that's okay. It doesn't need to all happen at once, And some people are able to get to that state through meditation. I am considering, because someone had mentioned it to me the last week that she did the Vipassana meditations and that really changed her life. And I've been thinking about it ever since because I was going to do it, but then you had to be vaccinated to do it when I wanted to do it. And you needed you literally needed boosters and everything. And I was like, well, this is crazy. So I won't be doing it. But now that they've eased the restrictions back to normal restrictions, and I think I am going to consider doing it. So I wonder, after I get back from Peru, which will be in August, and I acclimate a little bit, I may end up doing the 10-day Vipassana retreat, which is for 10 days of silence, pure silence. You're not allowed to anything. You're not allowed to talk to anybody for 10 days. And you literally sit there, Indian style, or maybe we're not allowed to say that anymore, right? Cross-legged. You're sitting there cross-legged, and then for 10 days. For 10 days in silence. And I feel really drawn to do it because I thought about it like a year and a half ago, crisscross applesauce. So I know it sounds intense, doesn't it? Right? What other past lives have you had that you haven't talked about? So I did, talk about most of my past life experiences that I uncovered in hypnosis. I did talk about most of them in that long video on my YouTube. The only other one that I know of that, I've experienced in some type of altered state was the Akashic records told me one past life. And they basically were telling me that the reason and it didn't show me the whole life, it just kind of explained the life to me. And it said that the reason I have this like kind of betrayal wound, and I'm very like have had so many experiences of being betrayed by different partners and different relationships. They said it's because this past life that I had where a husband of mine in a past life was going away to war, and then he left to go to the war. And, I basically told him I wasn't going to love anybody ever again for as long as I lived, all of my lives. And then he goes to the war, and then I believe he's dead. I believe he died in the war for years. And then after I had been mourning him for like many years, I found out that he was living in the town next to mine with another wife and other kids. And he had been fine the whole time. And so obviously I was very betrayed and hurt by that. And then the Akashic Records was telling me is that this is like, and they showed me who my ex was that did it. It was this Russian ex that I had who he really, really stuck it to me. And basically it showed me that like we agreed to do this because, we agree to these situations before we're born. So basically him and I agreed to this experience where I would experience betrayal, and then my soul would be able to understand the feeling of betrayal and be able to learn my lessons relating to that, but that it actually kind of like scarred my soul. And the Akashic Records told me this. So I didn't see it all like in a hypnosis. It was the Akashic Records told it to me. And they said that it kind of scarred my soul. And that the person who did it to me in that past life was also scarred by it because we agreed to do it, but then I didn't get over it and I didn't heal from it. So then he was still hurting because we agreed to do this. He does it. And then his soul is like, damn, like I really messed you up there. And then then they showed me like the person who it was. And that fucker did it again. Did it again in this dang life. Wow, you did a 26-day silent retreat. Whoa, I don't know if I can do all that. Whoa, 26 days. Have you had other lives with him since? I mean, this life. He did it bad. He did it again. Bastard. But it was interesting. That's when after our breakup is when I got into Journey of Souls. So Journey of Souls was what actually helped me to get through that breakup when I started to learn about these past lives. So I didn't know at that time in this life. I learned way like 5 or 6 years later after that we had the past life together. But in this life, when we broke up, I got into Journey of Souls, and that's how I ended up healing from that situation. But I had a dream around that time when I first was listening to Journey of Souls for the first time, and I was getting, like, so moved, and I was healing from this book, and it was making me understand all these circumstances in my life and all these traumas that I've had, and made me understand, like, the reasons of, why. And then I had this dream that we were in this, like, big space. Like, it was almost like a hub, and they talk about the hubs like this. If Natasha's still here, they talk about those hubs in Destiny of Souls, where it's kind of almost like a place where all the different souls are, like, meeting up, and, like, the different soul groups. And I saw a place like that, and we were walking together, and we get to this elevator, and then I'm about to go into the elevator, and he says, "I can't, like, I'm not ready." And I'm like, "Well, I have to go. I'm going up." And he's like, "I can't. I'm not ready to go up." And I was like, "Okay, well then, goodbye." And then I went, the door closed, and then I went, and I kind of saw that as, like, my soul was going to the next level, and he wanted to stay on that level. And I was like, "Okay, well, goodbye then," you know? And then what's crazy is that after my most recent ex, the one that I wrote about in Substack, the one that, got possessed and all of this crazy stuff. It's a crazy, crazy, crazy story. Now, that is for the free Substack subscribers. So you guys, you might not be able to come to the live Zoom, but you will get to read these crazy, crazy stories that I wrote about my experiences. And so after that, I was real messed up again, another betrayal, a different person. And then after that, it was about a month after that all went down, I bumped into my other ex, the one who did that to me. And we had, like, a final conversation. He's like, "Oh, let's get coffee or something." I'm like, "I'm not gonna call you. You crazy?" So just right there at this event that we bumped into each other, we had, like, a little 20-minute conversation, that was a good closure for it all. It was a good closure. Um, Obviously, it wasn't like there was still any, like, hope of anything ever happening with us, but it was a good closure. He had gotten sober, and it was nice to see that he was in a different place. Also, you know, him being sober now, but not then, I don't think he even fully acknowledges the extremity of what happened in that betrayal in that relationship because he was drunk. Let's see. Do you think when we feel we have a connection with someone is a past life thing? It could be past life, or it could just be a soul connection. I do believe in it. I'm a big believer of it. And especially, Stella, if you haven't listened to Journey of Souls, um, the audiobook, I have it on my free audiobook playlist. It's also linked below. I have, like, somewhere, or if you go to my JK Ultra YouTube and then click on playlist, I have, like, audiobooks for awakening. It is a life-changing, incredible book. Okay. If someone signs a soul contract to hurt you to teach a lesson in life, well, then they accumulate karma. Yeah, so karma is a cause and effect. So there's probably a reason why. Do I have something in my hair? Oh, I did. I had some piece of lint in my hair. Um, so it does, but that's the thing with karma, is that karma is really just the cause and effect. It's not really good or bad. So it's not like, oh, you have good karma, you have bad karma. It's like this has this effect and this has this effect. So, sometimes you could do something bad and then a bad consequence happens. So it's kind of more so a cause and effect as opposed to good and bad. So they also have effects from that. So that's aligned with what they wanted to learn as well, and with him really hurting me did in some way lead to him uh getting sober. Now, a little TMI, but because it's not really my story to tell, but it is a little bit. So this ex that betrayed me in this way, I walked in on him with another girl that he was forcing himself on, mind you. So I saved that girl, but it also was the end of the relationship. Um, so, I mean, it was all types of bad. It was embarrassing for me. It was embarrassing for him. It was not good for her. It was all parties involved. But then this girl was not getting out of the apartment quick enough. So then I had to tell her off, like, get the hell out of here. What the fuck are you doing here, bitch? So there was so many things wrong with the situation. And like I said, he, at that point, was an alcoholic and was at his very worst. And, you know, that also experience eventually led to him getting sober. One of the things, I wouldn't take credit for it. It was him that did it, but his actions did. However, I'm not going to say this was karma, but shortly after that, he was so severely attacked by a homeless person. And it was on the news and everything. And this homeless person had a piece of wood with nails coming out of it and hit him in the face and like destroyed his face. He had to get like reconstructive surgery on his face. So I'm not saying that that's part of the karma of all of that, but there is energetically, because I was not the only person who he had hurt or something in his life. It was an accumulation of being shitty to so many people for so long. It was part of his addiction, you know, and hopefully with him out of his addiction, that he's hopefully not hurting people in that way anymore. But he said, sounds like he lives in NYC. No, just LA, typical LA stuff, you know. Oh, thanks, Emma. Thank you for the super chat. So, yeah, so not saying that this was like a cause and effect of the situation. Nobody deserves that. But there is many crazy things that happen in many different ways. And then look at, sometimes we might be doing good in the world or doing good things. And then we're driving, something happens and we're like, whoa, and it was such a close call. So those things in that same way, we could also see as like sometimes having that cause and effect of the good karma. You've been putting good energy out there. And when that quick little thing happens, you are spared, you know? So that's also a way to look at it. But then again, it's not that blank forward when it comes to karma, because obviously life is life and bad happens to all of us. Negative events happen to everybody. And that doesn't mean that people deserve them. It doesn't mean that they did something bad, you know, because plenty of bad things happen to good people who don't deserve it. So there's a lot of things, a lot of layers. It's not really, you said, I don't know how calm I would be. I was not calm. I was not calm. But I heard a voice inside of my head. I'm so grateful for that voice. I heard a voice inside of my head because when I walked in and he was with this girl on the balcony and was pushing himself on her to kiss her and everything on the balcony, when I walked in, I slammed my bag down and was like, I'm going to murder them both. I'm going to push them both off the balcony right now. And it was like the first thing that came to my mind is I'm pushing. I don't know who you're talking about. I don't know who Joe, whatever you're talking about is. So I slammed my purse down and I'm like, oh, I'm pushing him and this bitch off the balcony right now. And I'm like stomping over to the window. And I heard in my head really loudly, Jen, stop. Watch. Just wait. Watch. And then she's trying to push him off from kissing her, which I would have killed her and not realized that he was trying to force himself on her. They both would have been dead. And then I would have been in jail for pushing people off a 10th floor balcony. So basically, I was so glad that this voice in my head said, Jen, wait, watch. I was shaking. I was like, oh, I don't want to watch. Oh my God. This person is desperately trying to get it. You're like, Joe Norton? It's Jim Norton. And no, I'm not talking about Jim. I'm not talking about Jim. I'm talking about someone else. Karma saved you from prison. Exactly. It was like my higher self. What guy am I talking about? I'm talking about an ex-boyfriend of mine from years ago. Uh, he was a Russian guy. So it's not my ex Jim. No, Jim is still one of my best friends. Like Jim, no, I did not almost murder Jim and push him off a balcony. um, do you believe that certain aliens can cause mental disorders as a way of covering up their psychic presence? I don't know. I don't know about that. That's a pretty complicated question. Um, I think people can sometimes, if they do have alien experiences, maybe considered to have a mental disorder by doctors because doctors don't believe in it. Or someone could have a mental disorder and maybe think something is happening with aliens. It's so complicated, but I don't think that they cause it to cover up anything. They could just wipe your brain. Jim Halpert. um, they could just wipe the memory from your brain. So I don't think that that's the case. Do you hear voices in meditation? You do, and it's crazy cool. I have. I'm more visual though, so I get more visuals. Yeah, Jim would have made it into a stand-up if it was a story with him. I know Jim has plenty of stand-up stories about cheating on me. Don't worry. There's plenty of them. There's enough stories about me in Jim's work. Let's see. While I'm here, why not pop another question? How can you tell when you've actually accessed the Akashic records and not just making it up? So that's why it's really good to do the 30 days of practice. So it's good to really do the 30 days of practice so you can get more acclimated with it. So kind of in those first days, you can kind of acclimate, start to feel it, and then start with more simple questions. Maybe start with like, also one of the things you can do while you're in there is say like, can you give me a sign later on today? Like I like to pick like a llama or something because you could see a llama on TV, you could see a llama on someone's shirt, probably not going to see one in the street, but that's not true. I have seen them in the street before. Sometimes they'll be like a random little street fair that has a little petting zoo. So you never know. There is times that I have actually seen the llama out in the street. So like you can pick something to like as a little practice where you can be like, okay, I would love confirmation that I've accessed the record successfully. Can you give me this as a confirmation? And then that day, keep an eye open and see if maybe it shows up on TV, if it shows up in conversation. So kind of you can test with the synchronicity a little bit if you want to see if there's confirmation. And then, you should be able to get some type of confirmation. Would I ever do a live hypnosis? So I've been put under hypnosis live. And that was cool. I have that on my Sarah Brexman Cosme put me under and we asked questions, but it's not something that I actually would do again because it is so private and so sacred that actually it wasn't really meant to be the subconscious mind opened up in that way. So I would also probably not do it live on someone else. Now that I know a little better, I thought it was just interesting and cool, like Dolores Cannon used to do. But opening up your subconscious mind, yeah, it could be published, but maybe not live, So like if something were to come up that could be edited out, I think that that's okay. But I think doing it live is a little bit now, especially for myself, I've gotten those instructions in meditation that I should never do it live and I should never do it in that way again. Because basically opening the subconscious mind in that way, it needs to be honored more. It's a more sacred experience. And so I'm not going to do it ever again after the time that I did. But other people can do it. It's totally okay if they think it is. But yeah, not to be a spectacle. And so if I were to do it and share someone's, it would be maybe, obviously they would have to be okay with it, but it would be like maybe a portion and not just the whole thing. Because also, similar to channeling, the hypnosis, it's like more than the subconscious mind, it's like the superconscious. So like the superconscious knows that everybody who is going to see it and everybody who's watching and everybody who will watch it later, because time is simultaneous. So sometimes you're not even able to get the right answers, maybe not right, but full answers. You're not able to get all the information because it knows everybody that is going to watch it. So it could be people who would not be able to receive that information or shouldn't know that information, or it wouldn't be beneficial to them. So it'll hide the information from you because it's not to be shared. What about that video with the shaman recognizing the aliens as the ant people that live in the ground? My whole childhood, I had dreams called the ant farm dreams. Oh, cool. So that's very interesting too. When I loved that recording when they were asking him about aliens. And then he basically is saying like, oh, that those are like basically the ant people that live underground, when they showed him a picture of what looked like a gray alien. Now you look at a gray alien, they do look kind of like ants, right? Like an ant head a little bit. And also the ant people could also be mantis people. So, when people see things, they interpret them a little bit different. So sometimes, you said hopefully our phones aren't listening. Well, with the hypnosis, that's different. That's a little bit of a different scenario. It's kind of like when you open it up in like more of a spectacle way. Not that no one could ever hear it, because it could, but when it's done in that way, like if a message is channeled, it already knows the people who are going to listen to it in 20 years. Those books, those channeled Pleiadian books, it's like the Pleiadians knew that we were going to be listening to it years later. Where else are you reading questions from? Did TikTok come back, or is that IG? Oh yeah, I'm still on TikTok. It just gave me a warning for bullying after I mentioned Taylor Swift, but it let me keep going. But yeah, with those ant aliens, those underground ant people, that has been like lore forever. And then also a lot of people have had weird experiences with that. And it does make me think also too, could it be some type of interdimensional thing underground? I've talked about this once before, that I wonder if the inner earth theories, because we see it as below us, but then we believe that angels and aliens are above us. And we believe that this other stuff is below us. But I wonder, is it a higher density that makes it feel like it's above us, but it's not actually above? It's just another dimension. And then the inner earth stuff, is it actually below us, or is our concept of the inner earth just a different density? Maybe they're more dense in a way. One time you saw a mantis sitting down in meditation, you panicked. Aw, you don't need to panic. The mantises are very nice, in my opinion. I always have them come up in my meditations. They come up in my meditations every time I do healings, doing the ayahuasca. They come up for everything. Even when Chelsea did the shamanic healing on me, that was the first time she saw a mantis pop up in a healing that way. She was like, oh, okay, well, we're working on Jen. That's why there's mantis beings here. Okay. You once had a dream about the new earth way before you even got into spirituality. You saw this man in an extraordinary spacecraft that gave you a warning about shifting frequencies. It was wild. Wow. I've heard this before, that a lot of people got these type of dreams at a much younger age. And then later on ended up coming into this. You said, what do they mean? So the mantis beings, it's actually interesting. On the Galactic Origins cruise, Tony Ghazi, he channels mantis beings. So maybe not right before, but sometime before, I think maybe I'll do a live with Tony, and maybe he can channel the mantis beings with us. That would be really fun. So the mantis beings, there's a lot of different information about them. So most of the time when people experience abductions, I also experienced this when I went under hypnosis and got more information about my abduction. The immediate stuff was like beings working on me, but then if you look into the back of the room, there's a mantis being there. And you hear this in Dolores Cannon, Keepers of the Garden, so many things. Like the mantis beings popping up in abductions are very common. However, my interpretation of it is that they're almost like overseers. Like, if like a TV show has kid actors, they need to have a SAG representative on set. So they have like a SAG person on set that makes sure that the kid is not doing too much work, not working too many hours, that the kid is doing its schoolwork. And this person is like, what is the word? I mean, they're like, I don't know, not a counselor. They're kind of just like a representative of SAG to make sure that all the rules are getting followed. That's my interpretation of why the mantis beings are involved in the abductions, is they're kind of like overseers to make sure that all the rules are getting followed, that the grays aren't breaking rules, that everything is happening in an ethical way, that everything is. So that's one reason why the mantis beings pop up. Another reason is that they like an advocate. Yeah, exactly. So, because they don't usually partake in anything, they're usually just there overseeing, making sure that none of the rules get broken. Now, there is a very interesting part in Keepers of the Garden. It's like one of my favorite parts of the book, where he's going through the hypnosis and then he sees a mantis being and he starts screaming, freaking out. And he's like, oh God, it's so scary. And it's like, because most of the time people are going to see like a hall monitor. A lot of people are going to see like a 8-foot insect that is kind of scary. Now, on the dimensional spiritual level, they also pop up a lot because they're higher dimensional beings. They're kind of like overseers in the galaxy as well. So they're allegedly like master geneticists. So they do some of the genetic manipulation, but they're overseers, and they also like carry out certain laws and things. So they're very peaceful, in my opinion. But any beings, I mean, there could be all different types of beings with all different intentions. But yeah, so they are positive, in my opinion. Okay, but I think I'm going to get going too, because tomorrow I'm going to be speaking at Pepperdine University. So I'm going to be speaking tomorrow, so I need to prepare my speech a little more. I have notes for my speech, but it's not all official. So I need to, I know, I'm going to be speaking in like 12 hours. And I'm like, well, I better finish my lecture. Beings told you we should stop teaching and reading common history because we are recreating it. Oh, I love that. That's great. Whoever asked about mantises, thank you. You've been curious. Once you heard that aliens are very related to Aquarius energy, do I have Aquarius in my chart? I don't have any Aquarius in my chart. I think a lot of the same thing is simplified. Like someone said, like neurodivergent is connected to starseed. I think it's just a lot of oversimplified stuff. Because every sign, there's only 12 of them. Every sign could have different connections to things. Every type of brain could have different connections to things. So I do think a lot of times things are oversimplified. Aquariuses typically are considered more weird and eccentric. So maybe that's why, but I don't have any Aquarius in my chart, or I don't have any planets in Aquarius, I should say. When you were 12, you had this weird alien shadow figure that watched you from the corner of your room every night. It would go above your bed, and sometimes you could feel it breathe. Oh, wow. Interesting. That's something that if you ever do hypnosis, you can ask a question about and see if you can get a little information about. Because those are the type of things that also can be asked and answered under hypnosis. Okay, guys, well, I better get going so I can finish out my lecture. I'm going to be speaking at Pepperdine University, and I'm going to be talking actually about social media, and I'm going to be talking about like basically it's okay to be weird. It's so scary even when you think about it. Yeah. It's it might not be as negative as it is, but also, when we don't understand something, it is scary. But I don't think it's actually going to be as negative as you think, Chloe. Let's see. You have 5 planets in Aquarius and you're weird all by yourself without alien help. Good luck tomorrow. Thank you. Good luck, Jen. Thank you. All right, everybody. Thank you so much for joining in on the Tuesday Night Live. This was fun. I actually, again, went longer than I expected. I expected to only do the hour, but you guys always end up asking good questions. Okay. Oh, thanks, Donna. Thank you, guys. All right. Thank you. Okay, everybody. I will see you soon. Thanks, everyone.